data collection, either interview or participant observation, as well as improve their capability in reflecting their data that they collected. And another, we also encourage the research assistant to develop the diary, reflective diary. I mean that this reflective diary can be another tool to improve our data quality, to clarify whether the data collected is biased due to they are insider or biased due to another things. That's all, PDF. And this is in the article Stefano. We can find that kind of issue.
Yeah, definitely. You said there are also some challenges using the research assistant. As already you said, there is the power relation and the level relation also. Between the researcher and the participants, they must have the professionality, and there must be the transparency and the need to trust to the researcher and a clear agreement. They need clear agreement about their training or their job, their payment, a clear contract they need. That is the strategy. So, and the another issue is a triple subjectivity. In here, we are assigning the research assistant. There is the subjectivity from the researcher and participants, and also from the research assistant. That's why to maintain the subjectivity is also the challenge of this research assistant method. Now I want to move to email chat. Before we talk about the issues within the 2 minutes. My friend, please, I want to ask you to share some strategies how we can improve the email chat interview. Only 2 minutes, okay? I have not much time.
Okay, I'll try to be brief for the email interview. How to for the strategies. First, we need to have inform the time limitation of the time. I mean, like concurrent interview 2 or 3. And then we need to have the email well constructed, and also we have to set some rules to the participants, so to the respondents, so we all, both of us, have a clear understanding of what we want to achieve during this interview. And then if the participant use emoticons or the way he communicate by using certain how to say writing type, so we are maybe we can follow the way the participant use emoticons, because not everyone likes to use emoticons when they read something. And then be flexible, and to the, because as I mentioned earlier that the participant has convenient at their time, so sometimes you have to follow their times, and because and we need to respond to the participant as soon as possible, so they don't have to wait a lot, and because they will respond to us late as well. And then maybe these are some of strategies that we can apply to achieve better data quality by using email interview. Thank you.
Some strategies definitely address the challenges associated with the phone call. I would like to ask the Cherry, please can you share some experience?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I will share several points. My understanding is first of all to spend more using the difficult. So that's
okay. That's all?
Yeah, that's all.
Some strategy I already discussed about the video-based interview. I talk about while we developing the report, I talk about the teach the participants how to use the different platform. That is also important aspect to collect the data. If during the data collection participants cannot join or cannot operate that, we cannot collect the data. That's why teach the participants if they don't know how to teach, and important strategy literature mentions that be polite, to respect the participants and give firm instruction to them. And the another one is during the data collection, like we are talking in this video chat, we did some who to talk when or how to express. It means environmental disturbances. I already talked about this issues. That's why to reduce the environmental disturbances, ask the participants to shut down the other applications if they are used. Ask or request, if possible, stay in the quiet room. Another one is shut down their mobile phone, etc., and use the small number of participants that are already talked about you. And the acknowledgement of the data collection to participants also. They encourage them. Researchers need to encourage them. Yeah, that is main aspects to gain the depth data. There must be collaboration between the researcher and the participants. Another one is already we talked about the it affects in the transferability because the technology-based method excludes some participants. That's why it reduces the transferability to the people who cannot use the technology well. Now, it's my honor to explore this. Now I close this discussion, and I would like to request our professor, Dr.R.C.Locsin, to provide us the feedback, share his knowledge and experience. I already introduced about our professor, expert in nursing and technology. He is currently working at Tokushima University, Japan. I would like to request Ajahn Locsin. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hi. Good morning, everyone. I apologize. I wasn't able to get in. I misunderstood many things. Okay, and one of the things that I'd like to actually request is if you can summarize what was presented, because there were no PowerPoint slides, right? And so we cannot note, right? And people speak very fast, right? And so it's a bit difficult. So I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about the other respondents or the other reflectors, right? So anyway, I would rather that you ask the question because I don't know what, as I said, I could not get what were presented, right? I heard photo voice, I heard emoticons, I heard email, right? And so I don't know what it is that you want me to reflect on, okay? So give me one point that you want me to talk about.
Ajahn, main object, we are beginner researcher. We have lack of practical experience. We just read the articles.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that, Devaka. Okay.
Yes, Ajahn. Yeah.
Just need for you to tell me, all right, what points? What point do you want, or points? Okay, do you want me to talk about? Okay, that has been discussed because I couldn't catch up. So just tell me what were the points? What 1 or 2 or 3 points that you want me to talk about?
As in, if we are going to use video-based interview, how it affected to collect the quality data, like video-based interview?
Okay, well, okay. So if you're going to do interviews by telephone, or by cell phone, is that what you're saying? Okay. How would you assure the quality of your data, right? It should not be any different than having a face-to-face interview, all right? You have to assure that the person has met the inclusion criteria, and what else? And it is recorded well, and that the person is able to articulate or to speak or to describe what is it that is being asked, what experience it is that you would like to be described. This is particularly challenging during the time of the pandemic, okay, and that's probably the reason why you are doing this webinar. All right. The idea is, of course, that you can use a camera, all right, a FaceTime if you have iPhone, or other ways. All right. The important thing is you record appropriately. Now, there was a question, I mean, I think this is something to do with the emoticons that I think Dara mentioned earlier, right? I would suggest not, if it is at all possible, not to have the participant use emoticons, because emoticons have different meanings perhaps, okay? I, for one, have some difficulty understanding what is this emoticon about, unless you spend time to really explain what are these particular emoticons, right? Again, the important thing is clarity, okay? Clarity of data or descriptions. So in interviewing, right, there should be no difference between you doing face-to-face and doing interview by cell phone. Everything has to be the same. You have to imagine that the person is in front of you, okay? And if you don't understand, and if you think that they need to describe more, then you have to ask. Now, I know Dara mentioned about there has to be rules, right? I think that's a very, I don't like the word rule, okay? There has to be a common understanding, okay? Mutual understanding between the participant and you, okay? So that when you give rules, okay, people have a tendency to break rules, right? That's being human, I think, right? But anyway, I understood what you were saying, Dara, okay? I don't know if that is appropriate enough for my reflection, but any other questions that you would like? I heard photo voice. What about photo voice? Any question about, any concern about photo voice? I'm not sure what am I supposed to reflect on about photo voice, or any other, it doesn't have to be photo voice, any other points that you would like us to reflect on?
Then while we are using these technology-based methods, how it affect in ethical principle, ethically, how these methods are challenging?
Please repeat that slowly.
While we are using these technology-based methods, how applying these methods in data collection challenge the ethical principle, to maintain the ethical principle, how it affect to the researcher, to enhance the ethical.
Well, again, as I mentioned, there should be no difference, all right? The important thing is there is always the confidentiality, right? And not necessarily anonymity, because now you know who this person is. So we don't really want to mention the word anonymity, right? Because you have a record of the voice, and the person interviewing actually knows who the person is. So there is no anonymity. You can always maintain confidentiality, all right? And that is very important in if you do data collection using technologies. Now, one of the and this is also being I would say being discussed, okay, extensively, especially the use of robot technology, right? Using using robots to draw data from patients, right? Because this data is stored in a particular storage area of the robot. Now, if the robot is hacked, right, all right, then it becomes a problem. How secure are you in your storage of data? Okay. Now, the cloud, iCloud, is supposed to be another place where you do storage. That is not safe at all. Okay. So how are you going to assure, all right, that this is done? Now, there are ways to assure these things, how these things are going to be done. Now, I am not a techie person. As I said, as I always say, I like technology, but technology doesn't love me many times, all right? So I would suggest you ask IT people, okay, to assure that your data, okay, through cell phones, through video chats, even this recording, right? Remember, Zoom is owned by a Taiwanese person, okay, and you know there are concerns about Zoom storage, right? And so that's a concern. So make sure that you have ways to assure the participant that their contribution is secure. Okay. Now I cannot tell you how, because as I said, I'm not a techie person, but there are other qualified persons who can really do that. They have the expertise to do that, and you have to look at those. You have to make sure that they are available to discuss these things. Anything else?
Jen, if anything else, you can give feedback us, or you can share it also.
I'm sorry?
If you want something to give us, I'm not going to point out the exact you talk about your experience. If you want to share something, please give us or share some knowledge about.
Well, okay. Well, there are 2 or 3 things that I really am very concerned about when we do qualitative research, especially phenomenology, right? And so we know phenomenology, there are 3 types, okay? And so when we say Heideggerian, it's interpretive to hermeneutic, okay? So when we say descriptive, it's Husserlian, okay? And so the consistency, all right? And so what makes me a bit concerned is when I see phenomenological research as the methodology, and then what the results would be factors would also, and Dr. Kittikon would be very concerned about this, is the language, the terms that we use, right? I always say it has to be grounded in human science, and understanding the other person is a participant, okay? They're not recipients of care, they're participants of care. And so we have to honor that kind of understanding. We learn from them as much as they learn from us, okay? So that's very important to know. And probably third, we need to inform or to share what we have learned from these participants, right? They need to know. Otherwise, no one will participate in your study anymore because they only use me, right? They don't know exactly what they have contributed, right? So they should know, they should understand what is it that they have done. That's why I think Husserl's approach is probably a good thing, because you have to go back and verify the information, right? But that should not be the only reason. We have an obligation as researchers to share with the participants, right? What is it that we have learned and we're going to share, right? We should not only be users, right? We should share, okay? What else do you think is? There are things that I think some people might want to really ask. I don't have all the answers, by the way, okay? So, but I may have some of the things that I can share about. But the only way to do that is if we know what they're concerned about. So go ahead, and if anyone wants to ask. You have 4 other presenters, so they might want to share something, clarify.
Can I ask something?
Sure. Yes. Sorry. Okay.
So we know that this using technology as a method of data collection is not new. Some researchers already use it long ago. Long before this pandemic situation. So,
right.
So I want to know that if this kind of situation can be justified for us to use technology-based data collections, But if we want to answer some research question and using qualitative research as a way of answering these questions, it doesn't have to be because of the pandemic situation, right, Ajahn? I mean, like
Absolutely.
some research can be answered by doing this kind of technology, using this technology, right, Ajahn? So
Yes.
I mean, like, can we justify because of the pandemic situation, or because the method is actually helping us more than doing face-to-face interview?
Yeah. Actually, see, one of the things that we have to understand is, remember, we are studying the phenomenon. Many times people will say, oh, I need to get three participants from this particular area, 3 participants from that, 3 participants. That is not, we are not doing cluster sampling, okay? All right. So it doesn't matter, all right? The good thing with technology is the participant can be anywhere, all right? And you should exercise the same inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, ethics consideration, the same. Okay, there may be some constraints, right, because of connectivity. Like somebody asked a question earlier or presented, and it was a bit garbled because of network connectivity. That becomes a problem. Okay, so these are some of the things that you have to note down as limitations of the study. Now, I would like to mention a study that I did based on constraints. This was the Ebola pandemic. Okay, in Uganda. This was 2000. Right? People actually ask, why are you asking your participants to describe on paper? Right? What is the explanation? You could have asked them, right? And you could have talked to them face to face, because these patients were available, right? But the reason I did that was because from a cultural perspective, if I call a person, right, and people know that I'm doing a study on the experience of persons who were exposed to patients with Ebola, then then this person will be stigmatized. That person may have Ebola, right? So those are constraints that you have to that can probably make you choose other methodologies, other techniques, okay, other ways, and technology can always be helpful. So what I did was, of course, I advertised, so they contacted me directly, and I asked them to write, to describe the experiences, okay, and that was the best thing that we can do at that particular moment, because of the constraints of stigma, plus, of course, the Ebola pandemic. Now, it may be the same nowadays because of COVID. So you will need to do these things. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I would like to unmute the microphone to the participants, and if you have any queries to our professor, we will pick up. We don't have much time. We pick up only 1 or 2 questions to our professor. Please unmute your microphone. Anyone?
Or Asniar, you can share about your photo voice experience, the use of photo voice in your thesis, and share with the group.
Who's that? Asniar?
Asniar is our alumni. She graduated maybe 5 years ago, right, Asniar?
Yeah, I think I remember her. Right. Okay.
She used photo voice.
Okay.
We cannot hear you. We learn to use technology. Don't worry.
Just maybe you can use the Q&A, right? That's probably better, right?
Chat box.
Right?
Or the
Right.
chat.
Yeah, go to chat. Yeah, we learn together, don't worry.
Okay, may I have a question, please?
Yes.
Introduce yourself and where you're from. Where are you from?
Yeah, this is Muna Sharma from Nepal.
Okay.
It's okay. Thank you very much for your good presentation. I got a lot. But by what is my concern is that by looking at that, using this technology, can we do ethnography study too? Or can we gather some data from ethnographic perspective by using this technology? Do you have some idea?
Yeah. Well, I think not during this pandemic. You cannot get away from your quarantine. Okay. So I don't think it's safe to do ethnographic data. Remember, ethnography requires participant observation, right? So you have to be in that particular culture, right? Now, you can perhaps make adjustments, right? You can ask them to when you do your interview or your participation using a camera, right? Hopefully they have a camera and you can record what is being done, okay? So that you can gather or generate data that is appropriate with the assumption that these are the things that are available in your particular point of data collection or data generation. The camera can be the eyes, right, and the ears, right? And so you may be able to do that. Now, I have not read an article. Okay, so maybe next year these articles will come out. Okay, using ethnography, because the COVID pandemic has really increased the ideas of how to generate data using technologies, in particular questions. Because remember, it's the question that will drive the methodology that you're going to use. Okay, so there's no specific answer to that question. I'm sorry. All right.
It's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I think you want to share about your experience of difficulty.
Yeah.
Did this work on ethnography and he struggled, right? Because the hospital not allow him to get entrance to observation. So how you overcome to this issue?
Yeah, I mean that's a very big question. Okay, so my suggestion is send a camera, or make sure that you again record using a camera what it is that you would like to see during your data collection, as if you are in that particular setting. That's, I think, what you can do, right? There is this, actually, this is an aside. I was actually sent they call it drive and listen video program, and I can actually see and travel as if I am in Amsterdam, I am in Mumbai, I am in Kathmandu, or I am in other cities, because this was recorded using a car, right? So you can actually see what's happening, okay? And so with ethnography, I think the challenge is you have to use imagination. How can I generate data as using technology as if I am there? Technologies are so they can do whatever you like, okay? And that should be a good thing. Okay. Sorry, Titus, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
Thank you, Hassan, for your sharing. Actually, in my conditions, because the hospital restrict the access for the outsider researcher, including me, so I cannot access directly to the hospital. Currently, I try to amend the protocol. The first strategy to get the data from observation, I assign research assistant. And another strategy is plan to ask the permission to install the CCTV in the ward, but it's quite challenging in terms of the ethical considerations, because previously in the first stage I approached the hospital already warning me that I cannot take any picture from the hospital.
Absolutely.
And currently I try to ask their permission to install the CCTV in the ward. It's very challenging, but I'm trying to approach that way. In case I cannot get permission to install the CCTV, so I will maximize the research assistant. That this research assistant is come from insiderness of the hospital. So in terms of the cultural sense, because they are insider, you can get some point in terms of the cultural sense from this research assistant. Hopefully it can done well.
Yeah, so you just have to be imaginative, considering the ethical, moral perspectives, because you have to respect the patients, not only the organization, but also the patient's participation. So if you record, right, they have to have permission, okay, and so you have to amend your data generation or data collection protocol. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Good. Right. You can. What is this? There is this camera, GoPro, right?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Why can't the nurse wear that in their hazmat suit? So the nurse can wear that thing, right? And so record everything, right?
Yeah.
No, I just thought about that right now. So I think you can do something to that effect, right?
Sometimes I think it's quite cultural sensitive. I mean, they're not used to do something. So this is the new way. So they may feel strange. It's just like I operate to think it. Sometimes interview cannot. If it is not in the hospital, we can invite participants to interview outside the hospital. But they limit that. Okay, they feel not usual for them.
Yeah.
To do interview, something like this.
Yeah, one of the things that you might want to do is it will have to be a cross-sectional data collection, okay? Meaning you can only take bits and pieces of time, right? Because that's the disadvantage of how you're going to record. And then of course the ethical review, you have to have members of your ethics review committee who are open-minded. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for you to do data collection and data generation, or to have your IRB, your ethics approved. Okay. Right. So the challenge is there. Yes. Very good.
Asniar, you want to share now? Your microphone is work, right?
Yes, Ajahn. Could you hear me?
Yes. Okay, Asniar.
Okay. Yeah. Really nice to see Dr.R.C.Locsin again after quite a long time. And also Ajahn Kitikon, Ajahn Sopen, and Ajahn Thaworn, and all the college. I'm happy to be invited here. I would like to share about the field experience I got during collecting data using photo voice. So to ensure the clarity point that Dr.R.C.Locsin mentioned before, so in my opinion, photo voice cannot be used alone. It should be combined with other methods to improve the clarity. And the photo voice itself consists of two important phases. The first is photo taking by the photo taken by the participants, not the researchers. That's the important point. And then the second step is the photo interview to improve the clarity. So we should ask the participant what are inside the picture, why they're taking the picture, how the picture relate to their life, what is the meaning behind the picture, who are in the picture, everything. So the good point about the waterfall is that it could capture the complexity and sometimes the sensitive issues that is hard to explain, and it could provoke the response from the participants. And for my case, because the participants are the students who stay in a traditional Islamic boarding school, who are rarely got visitors from outside, so it could help to building reports with them, and also build how to say the relaxed atmosphere when I'm doing the interview, because the focus is to the pictures, not to the person. So and it balance the how to say the power of the researchers, and the power is to the participants, that they are the one who select which pictures that we could discuss, which pictures could be published. And sometimes when, because the pictures are being taken in the dormitories, sometimes they think that, oh, these pictures is showing my friends without hijab and something else that could not be exposed. So they are the one who choose which facts that they need to reveal. And before the photo taking steps, there is one thing that should precede it, which is we should explain to them, maybe like conduct a little or a small workshop with the participants, how to use the camera and what they should focus on. Like they could focus on person or things or environment or anything that they think have meaning for themselves. Yeah, and another important point is that the person should give the informed consent for every pictures. So we have to do multiple informed consent first with the participant, and then for the pictures. So each pictures we should make informed consent that whether these pictures could be published or could only be discussed or could only stay in our thesis books or could be published in our papers as well. I think that's my experience from the field.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. I am sure your ethics review board will have a feast day trying to describe or trying to discuss how to approve your research study. But I think you did this 5 years ago, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so my question is, where was this published?
In Songkla Nagarin Nursing Journal.
Okay, all right. Okay,
At
so that's
first,
good.
we submitted to a Journal of Nursing Scholarship, belong to ICN. Yeah, but then there one reviewer says okay, and the other says no. So then the editor says no. So
yeah, that's always the case. That's why you have peer reviewers. So it's all right. Yeah, it was not meant to be in that journal. So anyway, I think I'm over the time. So, but thank you very much, Asniar, for sharing that data.
Thank you, Ajahn.
So,
thank you, Locsin. Professor Locsin. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you can say that you can continue. So we can continue, right?
We can continue. Thank you, Dr. Munna, asking important questions related to using the technology in ethnographic and sharing the experience to Dr. Asniar. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Thaworn to share your experience and some feedback to us.
Okay. We cannot hear you.
Okay. Are we all right now?
Yes,
Ajahn.
Okay, sorry. So actually, I don't have any comment, but I think I have a few questions to all of you. I think from this morning, and thank you very much for sharing a lot of information. I'm basically information overloaded now. So the seminar is trying to, I think, to say something about how to maintain the balance between containing the pandemics and trustworthiness in qualitative research. From what your presentations, I can say that the first thing, if we can do it, we should go for the best possible methods, right? This is if we still allow, for example, we can do something about, we have to keep the social distancing as, we require. We can go for the fever screening, mask wearing, or event and watching and quarantine. For example, if you have to go to an ethnographic study in certain setting, and then you might be able to get a quarantine from the village for 14 days before you can start your research project or something like that. This is if you still can go for the best possible methods for your research questions, right? And in case that you cannot go there because of the national regulation or guidelines, then you have to go for the best possible alternative methods, which you guys have discussed this morning, right? So we have many things that you have discussed. And basically, I have questions for all of you, just in case that you can help me answer. I think that the morning session we have already asked, does the pandemics influence or affect the way we collect the data in qualitative research? Right? Apparently, it's clearly that the pandemics have affected some projects, right? Like GTs, he cannot go to the hospital for the data collection, and then how can we go about, collecting the data to ensure that we have the trustworthiness of the qualitative findings, right? I have the second question that I think that this question hasn't been asked yet in this seminar. It concerns the dependabilities. So I asked the question, does the pandemic influence or affect or shape the way the participants tell their stories? So I think not no one has discussed this yet. So I think I'll put this question to the forum just in case that some of you might consider, because the issue with dependability is quite significant during the pandemics. The data collection that's happened in certain period of time, for example, 4 years ago, may not be dependable anymore during the pandemics. And the data they collected during the pandemics, for example, this year, may not be dependable in 5 years' time when the pandemic has gone. So do you have any idea how we go about this issue of dependabilities?
It is.
Student can help.
Because you are the leader, you can answer. You safe, right?
Okay, I will try, Achan. Thank you, Achan Thaworn, to deliver this kind of issues, because we miss these issues actually. Yeah, it's very. I assume that this pandemic also have impact on the dependability. For example, in my case, I studied exploring the discharge planning for diabetic patients in a tertiary hospital. From the few data that I get already, some nurse already mentioned that something changed during this kind of pandemic era, because the number of patients is less compared with the normal situation. So mean that the nurse have more time to contact with the participant. But in other conditions, because this pandemic also increased their insecurity, because we don't know yet whether this patient have the positive COVID or not, because then they admit to the hospital, not always get the rapid or swab test. So it's also make the nurse aware more to may affect on their interaction with the participants. with with the patient. So for that kind of condition, something is changed. Also including in terms of discharge planning, because discharge planning is talking about how transfer patient from the hospital to community. Because of this pandemic situation, maybe in the way nurse educate patient before they discharge from the hospital, maybe they assigned by the hospital to add some point regarding how improve the patient prevention to get infected by the COVID-19, because in particular for diabetic patients, they have high risk for infection. So maybe the hospital have some specific policy to deliver that kind of topic for every patient that will discharge from the hospital. So currently, I assume that kind of condition will change the situation in terms of the phenomena under study, and will be different compared with the normal situation. And as the researcher, I realized that it is important to put the setting in terms of the condition under COVID era. So our study maybe that we conducted during this pandemic era cannot be generalized into other conditions. It's so important for us as the researcher to put COVID situation that might impact on the phenomenon under study. That is that.
Thank you very much, Titis, for sharing, because I basically I'm conducting one research project during the pandemics, and I have experienced the same issue, because we are looking at the communication about fall within the family, and actually the pandemics, the COVID has some kind of impacts on the way the patient or the older people and their family tell their stories. So I think it's very important that we consider this issue of dependabilities, and whether we should add something like the pandemics in our research question or not, or if the pandemic is not included, the word pandemic is not included in the research questions, then it should be during the conversation within the family or with the other people that, for example, I ask, so, during this pandemics, how have, the pandemics affected your physical activity, your exercise, your routines? So that will be leading to, something about the fall and fall prevention program. So any other people like to share?
Ajahn, can I ask some questions? Maybe
Yes,
just
please.
some thought. We know that all this, that we've been taught that our research data collection, our data analysis is driven by our research questions, right? And
Yes.
our research topics. But during these situations, it would be possible, because of we have to find an alternative way of collecting the data during this social distance situations that might affect our research topic, our research questions, our research topic. Will it be possible if that happen because the alternative method of data collection?
I think we have to
What do
weigh.
you think, Ajahn?
I think we have to weigh the balance, to keep the balance between the risk and benefits, right? The risk to the participants, right? And the benefit to the participant and to the project, the research project itself, right? So we cannot get everything that we want, right? If we going to harm the participant, then we have to step back a little bit and recognizing that there are some limitations and weaknesses in these projects. And I think that people will understand it.
I agree. It's not 100% perfect for the project. Sometimes they may have some limitation. Yeah. And Dr. Varakon mentioned something in the chat. You can read in the chat. Anything else? Sorry. It's the leader of the seminar.
Participants, do you have any questions to us or our expert, Rajan. You want to share something, your experience?
Imam, right? Imam, our former student, master student. You also have qualitative thesis, right? In master degree. Can you hear me? Hidayat, right? Imam Hidayat, right? Ajahn Marapon asked me to say hi to you, and I think you may have something to share. He disappeared after I called his name.
I think he appears online, but will not be there physically.
But this might be the limitation of technology.
Participants, if you have any experience, if you want to share, please unmute your microphone and share experience. As well as if you have any queries, please ask. If you know, we will give the answer. If not, we have our advisors, our expert. We will try to answer to you.
Ready? I just called whoever.
Nabil also is there. Hello, Nabil. Disappear.
Disappear. Just show up. Okay.
If you don't have any questions, Puja, Pam, do you have any questions?
Help me ask the questions. Okay.
That's right. That's right. You can come and join
Yeah.
so many people can see you.
Come here.
Okay, while waiting other participants.
Yeah, she is coming. It is just wait for a while. She is coming to share.
Okay, then.
Yes, I would like to subject after the Dr. data collection in qualitative research.
Okay, we can
I
say.
agree with Sky. Because from study of Kusman, Jan, Urban, and it's all PhD student at Department of Midwestern School of Midwestern School of Nursing and Midwestern University Medical Science. They study about the new generation of online synchronized interview in qualitative research. In 2000, they found that Sky as a synchronized online service offers researcher possibility of conduct individual interviews as well as small focus group available to online type. This commentary present because Sky is a method for face-to-face, one-way-to communication, and when between you interview or you slide, see the characteristics of participant or alternative or supplement choice to the speaker who want to share confident approach in interviewing. But between you use Skype online, yes, you will have a problem. For example, significant available or skill of use internet online or of participant and this time some country I mean the example small things not in Moscow. If you want to have a question here.
That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your sharing your experience through the literature also. Yeah, based on our understanding, video-based interview have many methods or many techniques like Skype, Zoom, WebEx, telemedicine, GoToMeeting, etc. I have more than 10 methods we can use according to what are their benefits and how can operate this. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. If you don't have any questions, we can summarize this.
Can I have a question?
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning to everybody. I'm saying that in my opinion that using technology in research, it is a challenging. Either there is a pandemic or there is no pandemic. But it will be more challenging when is there a pandemic situation. My question is that how can I detect misleading information while using technology? Thank you.
Can you say again, misleading information? What to say?
How can I detect misleading information while using technology during data collection? Because in using technology, sometimes misleading information maybe rise more than face to face. So how can be assured that, or how can I assure that I can detect misleading information from the participant? How can I manage misleading information during data collection from the participant? Thank you so much.
I just try to give you the answer. It may be not fully 100% correct, but misleading information using the technology may affect in two ways. One is from understanding, another may be from technology. Because if sometimes poor network and we cannot clearly understand what participants said or what the researcher asked to the participants, and the participants may answer in the another way. That's why we have to teach them how to use the technology and build a good internet quality. That's why we already talked, if the participants do not have a high-speed internet, they possibly exclude from the study, or if they don't have the knowledge, or they don't have a laptop or a smartphone with microphone or camera, they should exclude. That's why that is another strategy we have to teach them. Regarding to strategy you asked, for a correct way of using the technology, we have to teach them at least one day before. The literature mentioned that before one day of your data collection, you contact the participants by the phone call and then ask them, they are ready, they have everything like microphone, camera, or they can set up, or they can now ability to operate this. This is one thing. Another technological things it mostly happen by the slow down of the internet and sometimes the technological perspectives is the drawback of using the technology. I'm understanding, and for more information.
I mean, thank you so much, Deepika. But in my questions, that misleading information, how can you be sure that the participant saying the truth? Because like in email, you don't know. Maybe not the participant who responds to you. Maybe another one who responds to you. You understand me? Like if your research about adolescents, maybe the parents who responds to your email. So how can you be sure that? How can you detect misleading information during data collection by using technology? This is very important. You understand me? Or if your participants are elderly people, so maybe he cannot hear your questions very well. So maybe the family who answer. So
Okay.
This is my regarding my question.
Okay, I got the point, and it seems like Dara want to answer, right? Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, can I share the opinion? Okay, thank you. So actually, this is what we were talking about last night in our group, that if we use email interview, how can we be sure that the one that we thought is the participant actually are not the participants? So there are some to get to these problems. First is by doing data on biography. So I know that because or maybe not that first. First, in order to use email, we have to make sure that the participants has the characteristics that required for them to use email. For example, in many studies that using email as a method of interview, they tend to choose participants that prefer to talk by written communication than oral communication. So this is one part, and we can, and then of course we cannot include participant that's illiterate on technology or have difficulty in writing or reading to participate in our study. So this is the most important part, and most elderly and for elderly participant, of course, we cannot use this kind of method of data collection because most elderly prefer to talk than writing. So so it will be impossible for them to ask them to write. And as your questions that how we make, if we want to get the information from the elderly, but we were afraid that the family that will answer it, maybe as I mentioned, that I asked earlier, that we have to compromise the way that we want to get the data. Maybe instead of interviewing directly to the participant, for example, if the participant elderly, we can use data by proxy, which is by interviewing their family members. This is one way of a research article that I read. And then another one is to make sure the biography data of the participants, to make sure that he or she is what he or she state. Of course, we cannot 100% sure of this method, because at the end of the day, whatever the patient said is true is based on what his answer or their answer. And this is how I think in my experience that we cannot, in doing qualitative study, the answer is, and the experience is from the participant. So we cannot say that you are not telling the truth or something like that. So maybe other friends or maybe from the expert can add more to my opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thaworn write something, right? Can you clarify more your answers?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the confidentialities, anonymity, and voluntary participation. As I believe what Dara has just said is very clear that, if you start a project with the, anonymity, then you risk, getting the misleading information because you don't know who answer who gives you the data. But if you have you are working with the concept of confidentiality, then you know the person, right? You know the person. And the issue with voluntary participation is very, very important because we don't want to force the participant, right, to participate, to keep the data that they don't want, to participate in the time, in the place that they don't want to be. So I think Dara has made that very clear that, you have to be very flexible, and you have to tell them that if you don't want to give this kind of data, then you don't have to do it. If you want to give just a few sentences of your data, then it's fine. You are not forced to do it, because when you force it, right, coercion is not, doesn't produce the information that you want, right? So make it very clear what your expectation, about the research project, what their nature of involvement, what they can do, what they cannot do. If they're not happy to do it, then they don't have to do it, right? Because if they're not happy, but they are forced to do it, then they tend to give you, something that not really true.
May I add something, not just add up to what Dr. Thaworn mentioned. Another point is you can use multiple source of data collection. You can use interview and triangulate with observation or whatever. Multiple data collection method will triangulate and confirm what they say. Okay, so hard work for qualitative researchers. Okay, because for quantitative they look for something, and they just not reliable something like this. But we have to prove that our data have a quality.
Okay.
May I add something, Chan?
Yes.
Actually, if we triangulate with other data collection methods, it's quite challenging because we select email because it's to be the most possible one in the condition. But if we use email only, we also still can triangulate with the within data collection method. So we try to triangulate with like we see the consistency of the participant answer, whether it's have any consistency, and we can clarify more in the next email. Also, we can also clarify with another source, meaning that with another participant's answer, we can try to compare whether any consistency or discrepancy, and then we clarify further to the participant that we indicate that is like not the true participant. And another thing is important that qualitative data collection method is only not conducted in one time finish, but it's like continuing data collection. So during that serial data collection process, we can try to compare each other within one data to another data to see any consistencies or discrepancies and try further clarify to the participants. So we can detect whether this answer comes from the participant that we have confirmed previously or another person answer from that question. That's all I can.
So may I sum up? It's just like, okay, Thaworn, what Dr. Thaworn mentioned is the foundation. Important is just voluntary, right? And confidential and trust relationship. This is the foundation. And apart from that is use the concept of triangulation. Data triangulation, time triangulation, method triangulation to validate, to ensure that there is not misleading. Additional to this triangulation concept is reflexivity. Researchers have to reflect on the data so that there is no bias at all. Okay. So now, Thaworn, Dr. Thaworn.
Yes, I think I forgot to say something about the alternative methods to qualitative data collections. And like TTs, because you have already started, right? You got the ethics football, got everything. So you have to face the challenges, right? And you have to be very
Not a chance, still struggling.
All right, still struggling, right? But for those, I believe that if you are considering of doing qualitative research, you have to be very strategic about, who you want to study, right? And where, right? And where do you want to collect your data? You have to be very strategic from the start. Otherwise, you may have, to face the problem if you design your research project not very strategically. For example, if you want to do ethnography, right, you have to make sure that, okay, the communities where the pandemics is, there is no pandemics, right? You probably cannot decide, to collect data in the community that is close to the pandemic area, something like that. So this is very careful. And also carefully selecting the participants, right, that are not at risk of, getting in touch with the pandemics or the coronavirus. Or you might even in one project, I think some of you mentioned that, you cannot use just one technique in one project because one technique may not be appropriate for that person, but it may be appropriate for another person. So carefully selecting the techniques that is best for the specific for different participants in your study. This is what I can say.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Now
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
One more.
Okay, just one question. Thank you so much. During my review, the articles that have been sent for us through the email, one point has been raised that talking about the protecting of researcher while using technology for data collection in qualitative. So I want to be for who has an experience in using technology for qualitative. What is the meaning of it needs a protection for the researcher? I'm not saying about the participant, but there is some threatening for the researcher who use qualitative for data collection in qualitative. So anybody can explain about what they mean by the protection of the researcher, or maybe especially in sensitive or that topics that might touch the sensitive point. So is there any possibility that the researcher has been more exposed to threatening than face-to-face data collection? Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again, Julius?
Yeah, yes, Ajahn. Ajahn, during my review, the article that you sent, the students sent for us through the email, one point that have been raised that about protection the researcher who use technology for data collection in qualitative. They talk about protection the researcher because the information, maybe the information about the researcher become more exposed, more available, for not only the participant, maybe to the other people. Is there any possibility that also the researcher might be threatening or something like that? I don't understand it. If had anybody have some clue about these issues.
Yeah.
By using the technology, there is any threatening to the researcher? You want to?
Yes. Who use technology? Yes.
It is said that while conducting the study.
This is based on the paper that the group provide to you, right?
Yes, Ajahn.
Okay,
Yes, Ajahn. Yes.
Just there is not only the risk to the participants conducting the qualitative research. There is the risk to the researchers also, because they are going to explore some sensitive issues, some practices.
Help them, she is going to die.
Researcher also have some.
You are a person. How can I say, share the room together? How you kill her? Kill her with the question.
Okay, articles mentioned that not only the participants also to this candidate.
I will try, Ajahn. I will try.
She need resuscitate.
Okay, Ajahn Dev, I will try. In my understanding, the security issues in terms of the researcher, qualitative researcher when conducting data collection through technology. For example, when we applied email, for example. So, if we collect data from the participant using email, that we share our email to our participant. And sometimes, currently, we use email connected with our personal data, many things. Bank account, we use email for login into some personal data, also login with our email. So if we share our email as our personal information, sometimes it's threatening for us as researcher when someone or our participant, for example, have some bad intention to do some crime, for example.
Yes.
And another thing is when we conduct phone call. It's automatically when we connect phone call, mean that we also share our phone number, our contact number. So if we share our personal identity again, it's also easily to someone that have bad intention to have some crime problem to us.
Yes.
That condition can illustrate the threatening condition for the research qualitative decision that apply technology-based data collection method. Colleagues maybe have some other points.
Maybe I would like to add some, especially related to using email, because one of the biggest threat in using email is data security, and if people can, because people can hack into our, just like Dr.R.C.Locsin mentioned, people can hack to our cybers, internet connections, and then will jeopardize our data. So one of the articles that I read mentioned that you might need to have your separate email for doing the interview data using email interview. So this will protect your personal data that Titi said may be connected to your bank account or any important account that we have. And for photo, by using phone, actually it works both sides. We know the participant knows our numbers, and we also know the personal data, the numbers. So I'm not sure about this one, but probably the best way is not using our personal phone. But I don't know. Maybe different countries has different regulation related to phones. Maybe instead of using our personal phone, we can use our office phone or something like that. But of course, this will be less convenient. But I know that some countries has a strict regulation related. Only one person can only have one phone number or cellular phone number. So will be also quite challenging if the participant have bad intention toward the researcher. And another biggest threat is if they can detect our IP address and know our location. So this is also a threat to if they have bad intention, of course.
Okay, thank you very much for making me survive, Titis and Dara. And another important issue Suruk raised about misleading of information. If we use the research assistant during the data collection, if researcher neglect the research assistant, the research assistant will not collect the data in good manner, and that may lead the misleading of the data. That is literature mentioned on aspect of. Now we are at the end. I would like to invite Ajahn to.
Thank you for sharing everything. That for me, I think one more thing that I have one student under my supervised. She conduct about qualitative and ethno, and during this COVID, effect. So sometime about the method of the participant, because she would like to conduct the data in a pregnant woman, but when the accident occurred, and then she go back in the field, correct data after the pregnant woman, deliver the baby. So some content or some information occur after that, is not related to the objective. So this is the one more concern that you need to more specific related to your objective, because they ask about carrying during pregnancy, not after giving birth. So many information when she gather or correct data is get from the grandmom about how to take care of the grandbaby, or baby. So it's not quite relevant to the objective. So one more concern that the researcher need to make sure that if they would like to add more data, if they don't complete in the first interview, so need to make sure that the data more specific related to objective. And then I think many things that we talk about one method cannot use for data collection for qualitative. So we need to add many methods to get, complete information that we would like to answer the objective or the question for our study. And then IRB, one more thing on IRB concern, because during the situation, maybe you have a period 6 months, but when you need to attend, you need to see IRB need to maybe some requirement to act more attend time, and then in our school and then outside, in the setting. So you need to ask permission that, okay, during this time, you need to attend the timing of data correction. So this is another concern for us too.
Thank you very much, Ajahn. And sometimes, our friend Titis, past he take the informed consent like face-to-face interview and participate. I would like to request Titis to sum up the session. I would like to request Titis to sum up the session, and thank you to all, and we will continue join after 2 minutes to conversation.
Okay, I will try to sum up our lesson today. Actually, the pandemic era and the social distance measure affect on our data collection method trustworthiness is. And one of the important trustworthiness issue when we move to online data collection method is the data quality, because the online interview sometimes have some different aspect with the face-to-face interview. We maybe miss about the non-verbal communication, we miss the gesture, we miss the emotion, as well as the another expression that we actually can be observed when we conduct the face-to-face interview. So on those kind of challenge, we should anticipate. And actually, the literature already provides many strategies to improve that kind of challenges, including like building the rapport. Even we conduct online, we still can improve the building the rapport by conducting the meaningful online interaction with the participants. The second one is maximize the online platform that we choose to conduct the data collection. When we use the email, we have some strategy to improve the data quality regarding the email instruction, as well as the respond to the participant directly when they answer the question, as well as put the question in certain number rather than put in the palette. And for another platform, the much better in terms of the facilities, like when the platform have video or not only audio call, we choose the video call one, because when we choose the video call one, as far as that is feasible, that is applicable, we can maximize to observe not only audio data, but also we can observe the participant nonverbal expression and communication. And another thing that we discussed is about the security, data security, because we use the online, many data can be like threatening in terms of the security. And you see from our expert also sharing about the photo voice. Regarding the photo voice is one of the possible alternatives to conduct data collection during this pandemic era. But we also have some challenge in terms of how to produce the good quality picture, as well as how to conduct online discussion based on that picture. And another alternative that we can apply during this pandemic era is assigning the research assistant. It also have their own challenging and strategies, particular in managing the insiderness bias, because when we assign research assistant come from the insider setting, mean that they have already preconception, and we should manage this kind of bias by improving the reflexivity. And another issue is improving their capability, as well as their willingness to conduct daily diary reflection. So this kind of tool will help us to improve the data quality. That's all. Hopefully, it's cover important thing that we discussed this morning. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for our honorable guest, Ajahn, and participants. Now it's time for break. Next session, ethical challenges, will lead by Dara, and we will be back after 15 minutes. Thank you very much.
So we will be back at 10.
Here in Nepal, 10:45, but your local zone, we will be back after 15 minutes.
Okay, 15
Thank you.
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, see you.
Okay.
Break. Try to speak slowly. Slowly.
Just run.
But if you speak fast, not what getting. No.
My goodness, I don't know what to say.
Try breathing.
With our PowerPoint, sometimes they cannot catch word. But if you have PowerPoint or
Yes, Ajahn.Locsin get feedback.
Yeah.
If you have a PowerPoint, for certain point.
so you can have another seminar.
Ajahn is my friend. I go back to Nepal.